Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Chuck, and today we're checking out what if every villain in Dragon Ball fought. So I don't know if this is like a every man for himself scenario. Everyone's fighting at the same time. Pow, 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 boom. Tournament of power style thing, or if it's just like 1v1. I'm hoping it's like everyone like. Meow. But then, what time scale are we using? Are we using Super? If that's the case, Black Frieza wins. Let's go.
Dragon Ball Z and its sequel, Dragon Ball Super, have greatly followed the story of Son Goku and his struggles against powerful adversaries.
Yes.
And as you could probably expect from such a long-running series with multitudes of games and extra content, there are a lot of them.
Do you know what? I forgot. I forgot that Chuck does this. He's going to include... Right, let's wait.
From the Supreme Space Emperor,
That's right.
Frieza,
Right.
to the devil that warped the macrocosm at his whim, Janemba, the unjumpable, legendary Super Saiyan Broly, to the insanely crazy capabilities of Moro, the ancient ops of the
So we're doing
Supreme
manga.
Kais.
Okay, that's fine.
Dragon Ball has no shortage of candidates when it comes to who would be the strongest amongst all of them. But what if all of these significant adversaries, rivals, or villains faced off against each other in an equal stat scenario? That is to say, they would have equal levels of power, durability, and speed. However, they would all have their individual abilities, skills, stamina, and of course, experience and battle smarts that would mainly be used to determine who would survive the longest and eventually take it all the way through to the end in the Null Realm arena with
Oh, okay, so everyone's got equal stats.
the 1 hour time limit. First and foremost, I like to make some things clear. Although the video will mostly include villains, there will be some tournament adversaries or other rivals that may not be seen in the traditional villain spotlight, such as Jiren, Broly from Super, or Beerus.
Okay.
Second, some opponents will be in teams given their affinities and just what would be expected of them in character. So for example, the Ginyu Force or the Limitless Future Androids would be together. 3. Transformations are obsolete except for properties that are not tied to their power, such as minor regeneration in the case of Frieza, for example.
Okay.
But power growth capabilities such as Metacooler's adaptation, Super Broly's rising key levels, or his pure progress would count as abilities and not transformations. Additionally, there are other things that will be considered in who would likely rank higher, such as versatility, that being who has the greatest set of abilities or survivability to make it through to the end, and who is unjumpable, i.e. who can fight multiple opponents at the same time without
Okay.
any apparent disadvantage. So for example, people like Hachiyak or Broly would get extra points for this. However, that and being in a team does not necessarily guarantee a win, as you will see further into the analysis. Finally, power levels, power scaling, and destructive feats, or what have you, are not really going to matter in this analysis because
Okay.
more so, we are going off of their own capabilities in reaction to change that are independent of the raw power or incremental destruction echelons showcased within their battles. Also, merging or fusion capabilities are up on the table and will offer a very small boost in power. Clearly not as dramatic as it is in the series, otherwise any fusion character would just one-tap everyone. They are more so there to extend survivability like with Android 13 and his squad, and in the case of Goku Black and Zamasu, it can help them evolve depending on how much damage they receive. Also, the order I mention each character within each tier does not necessarily mean that they would place better or are stronger than someone who came before or after them, as it's mostly just random.
Okay.
Additionally, although general power sets will be equal, attack variations will matter in this video and have their own multipliers. So for example, a Divine Kamehameha from Ultra Instinct Goku would be more potent than a Solar Kamehameha from Cell, which in turn eclipses a pre-Buu Saga Super Kamehameha, which is far superior to a standard Kamehameha. For now, I will cover the ones who I think are low tier here or are not really necessarily impressive enough to make it through further into the tournament.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's fair to say that Nappa is first to go because he is outright the most dumb motherfucker out of everyone here, going by him not trying to dodge Krillin's Kienzan until Vegeta warned him to move, which would have likely decapitated him. Being that stupid is crazy considering there are mindless pink deity killers and insect kaiju to compete with here. Raditz is definitely smarter than his fellow Bald Saiyan, but he is quite cocky, and because of that,
Yeah, I'd say he's not as strong either.
he may let his guard down, and if he has the upper hand with other low tiers, he may be fighting. Also, his maneuver he pulled on Goku to get him to free him will likely not work on anyone here, and his tail being grabbed is a noticeable weak spot.
And since you don't want to play by my rules, what do you say we have a little fun instead?
Turles, the original evil
Turles.
Goku, has a cool-ass moveset like the Kill Driver and the Meteor Burst, but he doesn't really have anything that gives him an edge apart from his ruthlessness. The Uzaru transformation is a possible route to help the Saiyans survive longer, given their large size, which would allow them to theoretically endure more damage, given that less surface area would be affected from most opponents because of their smaller size, while their smarts would decrease greatly, which would nullify what would have been an advantage. Dr. Wheelo, the mad scientist who tried to get a hold of Son Goku's body, encases his brain in a giant mech and can fire deadly energy blast, and he is certainly one of the biggest contenders on the list, but size is all he's got. Cell Max is here in this tier because he's complete dog. The only features he has going for him is his size and a cool Shin Godzilla-esque death laser.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, this is interesting. So if you're taking power levels away and that, okay. Does change things a bit. Alright, interesting. This does make it interesting, yeah. Cell Max being in the same category as Raditz and Nappa.
But unlike the other giants on this list, he has really subpar key control and mental fortitude, and to top it all off, he doesn't even have the regeneration his predecessor Cell had. So he's likely one of the first ones out of the tourney. It's actually pretty funny to think that one of the strongest Dragon Ball villains to date is actually very low tier when you incorporate their capabilities from the ground up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
King
Okay,
Chuck,
I'm on this. I'm on board with this.
How badly he beat Kid Goku's ass the first time. There's really nothing spectacular to keep him from going out quickly. Lord Slug would be a more imposing King Piccolo, but nothing radically different apart from his gigantification, which, unlike the Saiyans, he'd get to keep his smarts in the battle. They do have more survivability than most of the low tiers, but they would lose power after recovering and become less
Makes it
effective
best
in
to middle.
combat,
Alright, yeah, he's not going much further, is he?
Generally, the best of the low tiers would be Garlic Jr., and that is mainly because of his immortality, which would allow him to outlive other contenders. But him being knocked out is still very much possible. He does have some degree of being unjumpable, being that he did fight Piccolo and Goku at the same time.
Yeah.
But his trump card that he relied on to take care of them ended up being his undoing. Of course, I'm referring to the black hole-esque hyperspace called the Dead Zone, which could suck in a lot of opponents, but himself
Most
as well.
metal-sounding zone ever. I love it. Was it the abridged one where he's like, "What? I did it again! I did it again!"
Garlic Jr., being a stupid mofo, would probably end up eliminating himself if he wasn't wiped out by one of the mid or high tiers by then. The best of the mid and high tiers are certainly harder to pin down because a lot of them have something that they shine in and have one or more interesting set of abilities and combat skills, but I'll go over the ones that are likely eliminated first among them. Hirudegarn, the ultimate bug monster who is in the last Dragon Ball Z movie, is unjumpable, but he also has a tail to cover blind spots and some instant transmission type of ability, making him really tricky to hit despite having a gigantic hitbox. But otherwise, he has nothing that sets him far above the rest. Also, any capable fighter could see his weakness being that he becomes vulnerable while he is attacking and promptly take him out. Bojack and his space pirate gang have a lot of experience causing chaos throughout the universe, and they are very good at jumping people. Bujin even has interesting paralyzing threads that would allow them to easily facilitate a kill. Most of the Bojack gang seem to care about each other, but Bojack, on the other hand, would likely topple their chances of making it further into the tournament, being that he would likely, he would definitely sacrifice one of his own to avoid
he does it the whole
or to
movie.
get an opening on an opponent. They also don't have any crazy abilities that
It's a shame we never got a Team 4-star abridgment of this, but I'm glad they ended
push
when
them
they
out of
did.
the ordinary.
What we got now?
ウロリよりパワーが上かもしんね
Whoa.
え。だけど
But it doesn't
Hachiya,
matter.
a Tuffle machine spawned from the hatred towards the Saiyans, is certainly an imposing contender due to him being
tried to
unjumpable
steal
a high
Christmas.
degree, being that he fought 5 people at the same time. So he should theoretically be able to handle more than 1 or 2 people
Making
at the
him
same time.
unjumpable,
However,
that's the
about
phrase,
it.
isn't it?
He can theoretically use his multi-form to handle weakened opponents, but when everyone has equal power, he can't really afford to do that. The Red Tuffle also has a huge weakness, being that he takes several seconds to charge up an attack, which leaves him open to an ass whooping from other contenders. Janemba, the Horned Terror born from all of the Macrocosm's misdeeds and suffering, showcased one of the most surreal experiences on the big screen due to his wacky reality warping techniques, which allowed him to create mini Goku clones to attack, multiply himself, or create
So
weapons
strange.
like
Such an
Majestic
interesting
Alpha that
idea,
win.
though.
However, his ace in the hole are his teleporting punches and
Like,
kicks,
it's cool that he starts off like this, and you're like, what the bloody hell's going on? And then he turns into what we know as Janemba, and it's like, yeah, it was like one of the coolest looking designs for a bad guy, I feel like, within it. It's not like... I don't even know what is best, but it's got to be up there. It's got to be up there.
which seem to outright go beyond time and space as stated by a guidebook. And his own teleportation may work similarly, which could grant him a possible answer to opponents with Ultra Instinct or Instant Transmission to avoid or dish out hits. Despite his very unique loadout, he does have a crazy weakness, being that he can become stunned or outright damaged by being insulted, and as such would make his stay in the tournament very slim. Without that weakness, however, he'd make it much farther. The trio of the Dangers, the triple furry Fury threat from Universe 9, were quite formidable due to
The
their
triple
toolkit.
Fury
Not only are they
furry
brothers, but they
threat.
have been fighting together for years in the trenches of their cosmos, so they should have
Yeah, they'd work
vastly
well as a
superior
team,
teamwork than, say,
yeah.
the Bojack Gang or the Ginyu Force, especially because we actually saw them manage to seemingly push Goku and Vegeta into bursting some degree of Super Saiyan Blue against them.
Yeah, and obviously we're not taking power levels into consideration, but like they got it on point. They
Thanks
know
to
when to
their
attack
triangle
together.
Danger Beam. Basil has powerful kicking attacks and even has a roided out state, which would give him a temporary boost, but it would quickly overwork him like it did in the Zeno exhibition match. Lavender has deadly poison, which would overwhelm most opponents with less than adequate senses or skill to evade it or counter it like with a key shield. However, their ace in the hole is the oldest brother, Bergamo, who thanks to his power-draining ability, was able to seemingly force Goku to use Super Saiyan Blue with Kaioken against him in their beam clash. Even if he wasn't going all out, Son Goku powering up to any degree of that divine blue level when his brothers were such fodder is crazy commendable. With that in mind, the trio can overwhelm most competitors and can contend very well even against the higher tiers, including the ones that have power growth capabilities due to their combined attacks expressing far more output than they could individually. Dabura, the former king of the Demon Realm, is quite an interesting contender due to his powerful sword and due to his ability to petrify his
stone
opponents with his spit,
technique,
which
man.
could help him counter difficult opponents or those with regeneration. However, this is not enough to put him amongst the highest tiers. Although, it's worth it to mention that he does have some small-scale regeneration, being that he could see again shortly after Boo damaged his eyes. The Ginyu Force have arguably the greatest potential out of all of the teams that have groups, and due to their special tricks. That being Goldo's Time
Yeah, they've
Stop
all
and
got
Ginyu's
really
Body
cool
Change.
abilities, haven't
If they
they?
coordinate well, they do
Is
have
that
the
fair?
potential to outmaneuver pretty much anyone from the
Right, so obviously Rakun's like strong. Goldo's got time stop. Bert is really, really fast. Ginyu's got body switching. What's Jace's thing? Just being Australian.
low to the high tiers, except for like maybe the God tiers. And due to their body change, Ginyu can extend his survivability if things were to get very hairy. However, teamwork can only get you so far when the other opponents either have greater techniques, can battle multiple opponents at once, have power growth capabilities, or have greater stamina. The prototype androids, Android 13, 14, and 15, don't have anything crazy individually, but they do have decent survivability if one or more of them get taken out. Because if Android 13 is the last one standing, he can restore his power and slightly more with the fusion from the components of his fallen comrades. But apart from that, the red-haired blue-skinned Proto-Cell doesn't quite have it in him to make it far. Okay, now we're getting to the really good stuff. The next
Okay.
tier are the ones that have the highest potential of making it through to or near the end. The iteration of Broly within Dragon Ball Super was very imposing due to his immense power growth, which helped him go from getting his ass beat by Vegeta and Goku to straight up
Such a
overwhelming them to
cool switch around.
non-ultra states. And
I love the build-up. I look how Broly comes in and like Vegeta's just like, okay, I'm gonna catch this guy, and then Broly just starts getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's like, okay, now we need to go fuse.
then forcing them to fuse to solidly beat him. So he arguably showcases the greatest threat potential-wise, but he does have a drawback being that his key control is not all that great compared to most of the other characters, although recently he does seem more attuned to it. Also, similar to how Kale was knocked out the first time she rampaged, there are several fighters that may see that if he gets out of control and grows too much in power, he may end up eliminating everyone, so they may have to squad up or out-hack him to ensure his eradication. Aniranza is basically like the devil from Fusion Reborn, Janemba, given his dimensional rift techniques that allowed him to punch from wherever he was, which assuming it does work like Janemba's technique 101, could mean that they go beyond time and space itself. However, he's also like Hachiok, being that he is unjumpable, and what do you know, he also looks like him. Given his impressive size, he would be
Very, very
hard to take down
inspired.
by most of the contenders, but skillful or resourceful opponents would likely avoid him until they really needed to take care of him or would outmaneuver him. Regardless, this kaiju robot wouldn't make it through the very end, but his wings would make it harder to solidly knock him off for most of it. He is probably the strongest or most versatile out of all of the giants as well. Super Android 17, the hellish fusion of the two cyborgs, is also unjumpable given by how well he whooped on Earth's forces, and he has a nifty trick being that he can absorb energy and is made from two Libelus androids, so he should have the greatest level of stamina from anyone in the tournament, likely even more than the Boos. He can use powerful barriers and can even bring the machine gun fate if he wants to get spicy. However, while absorbing energy, especially vast amounts, he can become vulnerable, which smarter opponents would likely exploit before he is too large of a threat, but he should theoretically go pretty far.
Oh.
Awesome. I have way more power than I did before.
Super Buuhan, the strongest Buu, objectively, the grand amalgamation between Super Buu, Gotenks, and Gohan,
Yes, he is.
can regenerate to a very high degree, and he has numerous techniques like the Galactic Donut, which he can use to trap opponents, or he can even summon the deadly Kamikaze
The
Ghosts,
ghosts.
which seem to work exponentially given their potentiality to damage even Super Vegito, despite Buuhan not being able to do anything to him beforehand.
Buuhan's not
He
one
can
of
also
Super
get
Buu
Anger
ghosts.
Boost if you don't count it
was
under
looking
a
at Funko
standard
Pops.
transformation, which he used to make even Super Vegito struggle against him somewhat. He even has a beam which allows him to turn people into chocolate, and he can theoretically even reflect attacks using the Super Breath move that Evil Buu pulled off against Fat Buu. Given that he has Piccolo within him, he should have great battle smarts, and if even Super Buu was able to pull off some traps, then imagine what Buuhan could pull off. And of course, like any Majin Buu, he can choose to absorb someone, inheriting their abilities and memories. So because of this great moveset, the Ultimate Majin should make it quite far, and would be one of the hardest to completely get rid of.
Forget the Earth. I can destroy the entire solar system with my energy now.
Perfect Cell is a very versatile threat because he can regenerate even better than an Namekian, which he can get.
Yeah,
10
his
times
regeneration's
from
pretty
to
damn
recover.
awful.
Given his genetic
Awesome.
makeup,
I
he
was
can
gonna say
use the techniques of
awful for
Goku,
opponents,
Vegeta,
but then I thought
Frieza, and
awful's not the
Piccolo,
word
including
to use, and then it was like awesome, and then it's like came out as all of them, which isn't a word.
but not limited to, Instant Transmission, the Spirit Bomb, and the Solar Kamehameha, a high-powered variant of a Super Kamehameha. He can also straight up sprout multiple mini-cells that are nearly as strong as him without any noticeable key drawback, which could give Cell cover if he suffers a fatal blow and needs to recover, or if they need to jump someone. Due to his intelligence, he has great chances of winning, but there are characters that have his toolkit and more that would prevent that from happening. Theoretically, he might even be able to absorb the androids and become stronger as well, which is something I could see him
Imagine.
choose just by observing the battlefield. But pulling it off is a different matter entirely.
Is the one, the Saiyan of legend. You, Kakarot,
Alice in Chains? Is it Alice in Chains? Oh, Alice in Chains was the band known for doing like the movies with it.
choose you to be the first of my victims.
Z Broly, the strongest character of them all, is crazy formidable due to also being unjumpable because he could battle 5 dudes before anyone else did it in the series. He can also theoretically spam Energy Blast for long periods of time, which if you have played Sparking Zero online, you know he definitely can.
Oh, okay.
This is due to his energy or stamina pool growing constantly, which he has to use, otherwise his body cannot withstand it for long. Z Broly, unlike his super counterpart, is vastly more skilled as well. For example, picture when he finessed Piccolo into rushing him only to get served with a headbutt and a kick afterwards. He might even be
It
able to
wasn't
throw
even a headbutt,
amped
it's a
variations
shoulder.
of his
He
energy
smacks
attacks,
him on
given
his
that he can
shoulder,
fire
then just
multiple
like
eraser
that.
cannons in movie 10, despite it taking more effort in movie 8, and could even fire 2 at once in the Bio Broly film. So, akin to how there are upgraded Kamehamehas, this would be an upgraded Eraser Cannon. The legendary Super Saiyan has the potential to get very far into the tournament depending on how the other opponents react to him. Because either they ignore him and deal with their own battles, or they notice his advantages and make an effort to stop him before it's too late. Honestly, it would be possible that other contenders may have to form a temporarily unlikely alliance to put him out as well. Kind of like how several universes jumped Universe 7 in the Tournament of Power. Another thing that cripples Broly, however, is that he is pretty sadistic and seems to get off on showing off and trolling his opponents. For example, like when he stood around and dodged Goku and Piccolo's assault with ease, or when he tanked a point-blank Kamehameha despite just being able to dodge it. So he may get caught lacking by his own doing, and, basically would troll himself, and get taken out by an ability or energy attack he underestimated. After the heroes kept overusing the Dragon Balls, this built up negative energy and released evil dragons born from the heroes' wishes, with the ultimate boss of them being Omega Shenron,
Omega
the
Shenron.
grand combination of all of the Shadow Dragons. Thanks to
I've got the
other
Funko
dragons
Pop
within
pre-ordered,
him, he can
yay!
regenerate to a Buu-like degree, create heat armor, or use ice to trap opponents or radically change the environment. However, his apex method of attack is a negative Karma
The
Ball,
negative
which
Karma
acts like an
Ball.
evil pseudo-spirit bomb that can potentially feed off of evil energies in the environment. This would be, of course,
He's just that evil that he absorbs evil and shoots evil at the people.
assuming that he could build it up to begin with, but he does have a good degree of abilities to outlast some of the others within this tier. Metacooler, the mechanized variant of Cooler, has one of the most impressive skill sets due to having a very decent level of regeneration, which although not on the level of Boo's, it does come with a mini Zenkai boost in a way, given that any damage he receives is remedied and the flaw in the design that allowed the injury to happen becomes nullified. The Chrome Emperor also has insane awareness and tracking given that he could keep up with opponents through instant transmission and can even use it himself.
That is one hell of a speed feat, to be fair. Like, I know he uses it a lot, but it is.
Possibly even greater degree, given that Big Getty stars infinite power properties, which the guidebook state numerous times. Regardless, he would make it very far into the tournament, but there are characters, once again, that could counter instant transmission or overwhelm his adaptation. Kid Buu, the chaotic little pig mofo that threatened the cosmos, is one of the most insane versions of Majin Buu, not only due to his fondness for battle, but due to his regeneration that likely surpasses Cell's or Baby's. He can also use instant transmission, and he has even better skill copying capabilities than the other Buus, with guides outright saying that he can copy even high difficult techniques. So he
just
could
by
potentially
looking at
pick
them,
up some time skip from Hit, or some degree of Ultra Instinct or Ultra Ego from Beerus, although they would likely be much harder to learn than instant transmission, or impossible to learn outright, since we don't know if Hit's capabilities are something he learned or if it's genetic.
Yeah,
Plus,
okay,
of
that's an
course,
interesting
he can
point.
also absorb other contenders, which would not only make him stronger, but extend his survivability and capabilities, depending on who he absorbs. Again, like with a couple of other threats in this tournament, Kid Buu's success would also depend on if the smarter or more capable fighters notice the Pink Terror's potential to sweep and take him out or get him off the ring in some way, as there are characters that can either nullify his regeneration or seal him.
Fool! You Saiyans wiped out my race. This is merely payback.
Baby.
The wishes of revenge against the Saiyans from the Tuffle race brought forth their grand experiment, Baby, who was nearly able to take over everyone in the Earth and even most of the heroes through his eggs or by entering his targeted
Really cool
host
concept
through
for a
their
villain.
wounds. This parasite can even liquefy
I do like the
itself and
Funko
can
Pop, I'm glad I got
regenerate.
it.
Due to his possession capabilities, it's possible that through weakening opponents directly or by scouting out the battlefield, he can infect them and make them subservient to his will, fighting in the honor of him and the Tuffle race. However, things like Spirit Fission can counter this, and of course, if Baby's
Yeah, of
parasitic form is
course,
destroyed before he can
yes.
find another body to leech onto.
I am the supreme master of this universe. I am the great destroyer, the taker of life.
Cooler, King Cold, and Frieza, the Space Emperors, have transformations that they can use to heal from minor damage and even have paralysis-type moves that would allow them to get the upper hand on several of the low tiers.
Stuff like that reminds me of Budokai 3, where you'd let your character, like, as soon as you had enough energy to transform, you'd let your health go down. Drain the opponents, and then, boop, transform, full health again, bam, bam, bam. Or what, did it go full health? I can't remember. You'd at least get some health back, and he'd be like, nah.
Frieza even has a Death Saucer which is unblockable and would be very hard to avoid, and given his training in Hell and in another Hyperbolic Time Chamber-esque room, he has great ki control and stamina, on top of high degrees of skill, given him being able to contend with Goku even throughout his later years. The Frost Demons also have immense endurance and resistance to injuries, given that Frieza still survived while being cut in half, being blasted by Kamehameha, and being within Namek's explosion.
Planet blown up, yeah.
When Cooler was defeated, he didn't survive to the same degree, but his brain was able to stay alive long enough to be picked up by the Big Getty
The
Star.
Big Getty Star.
Frieza was also able to remain transformed in his golden state after being knocked out in his clash with Super Saiyan Blue Goku before the Tournament of Power, and he was even able to survive being pummeled by Broly for a long period of time.
That's true as
So it's
well,
fair to say
yeah,
that even if the Cosmic
damn.
Royalty has a disadvantage, but they have enough grit to remain standing longer than most. They may even end up betraying each other if they're caught up in their own ego, but I think for the most part they would work together despite hating each other. But apart from that, they don't really have much going for them to get into the super high tiers. Metacooler, on the other hand, is another story. The Sludge Monster variation, or bastardization of Broly known as Bio Broly,
Bio Broly.
is one of the most disliked versions of the iconic legendary Super Saiyan.
Well,
and although
ironically,
he
the
doesn't seem
strongest
to have
movie
the
villain.
increasing stamina or energy levels that Z Broly has, or the exponential gain Super Broly gets through the adversity in combat, he can regenerate and liquefy himself. He seems to be able to spread himself throughout the battlefield and could possibly engulf weaker opponents in his culture fluid goop and absorb them, which was the fate several poor fools spent in the movie. And if that wasn't enough, if he is able to assimilate with enough biomass, he can become far larger and become a Broly kaiju essentially, with his only weakness being seawater, which no one in the ring can use anyways except for possibly Omega Shenron through Oceanus Shenron being within him, but even then, how would
Interesting
you
show.
even figure out that's his weakness, right? Although far less intelligent than the other Brolys, he is basically a Boo Broly giant monster hybrid that would be as dangerous, if not even more dangerous than his other versions. Hit, the well-renowned 1,000-year-old assassin from Universe 6, has one of the most spicy movesets amongst all of the adversaries here, given that he can use time manipulation to a far better degree than Goldo, and he can grow mid-battle due to pure progress, which allowed him to keep up with Super Saiyan Blue Goku and his later Kaioken states. His assassination techniques are also next level thanks to his invisible ki blast that strike vital points, and the ability to conceal his presence well, which even confused
He
Goku's
is
highly
just a
agile
proper
senses.
assassin, isn't he? Like,
He
he's
also has
proper,
abilities that
like,
slow down his
attuned to
opponent's
his
movements with time lag, and
profession.
he can even suspend them in time with the time cage. Plus, he can straight up become intangible, and although he cannot attack during this state, it does offer him recovery options. Another important thing to note is that if you think about it, Hit was never really at full power when he fought Jiren or Goku because he could not kill. But in this scenario, he would definitely be able to show what he's really capable of. Due to his vast experience, hacks, and power growth, he is one of the tippy top threats in the tournament, likely only rivaled by Beerus or Moro, for example.
You say such interesting things, Saiyan. Aren't you happy to have friends willing to help you become a god?
Speaking of Beerus, the purple feline destroyer god is easily a god tier even amongst the high tiers, given that he has a degree of Ultra Instinct, which could help him counter
Oh,
transmission.
that's an interesting fact. Does he? Does he have a degree of Ultra Instinct? Because he's very shocked when Goku gets it. I think Beerus being on is a weird one because he's got a really good moveset. Oh, he can do Hakai. We've got abilities thrown in. But we're ignoring power levels. So, you know, this starts to get weird now, doesn't it?
And he is unjumpable given his battle with the Gods of Destruction. Of course, given that he taught Vegeta the form, he should be able to use Ultra Ego, and should be able to get some sort of power boost the more damage or challenge he
No,
receives
Ultra
in
Ego's
combat.
Vegeta's own
Although if he takes
thing.
too much damage too quickly, this could end up working against him, but he's likely smart enough to avoid this scenario in the first place. Additionally, he has the most experience and skill out of everyone here by a landslide.
Yeah, he's very, very good
And
at fighting.
he can use Hakai to counter characters
There we
with
go.
regeneration and immortality to an extent. Oh, yeah, and if Beerus was to feel pressed at any point, which is certainly possible if he's getting jumped, as it would be a likely scenario, he could seal someone off to buy himself some time.
Mira esto, aperitivo. Al transformar toda mi ira en fuerza, he podido conseguir un poder inconcebible.
It's a Spanish version. Sounds so cool.
Goku Black, the Divine Rose, Saiyan, and Zamasu, his like-minded counterpart, are likely the largest threat in this tournament due to not only being a duo, but because of their skill sets.
One being immortal.
One can grow immensely in power if he receives damage, has a sick-ass scythe, and can cut a rift in space to summon gassy clones that seemingly cannot be defeated and can increase in amount over time. Oh yeah, and the other one is immortal to a great extent, likely even better than the immortality of Garlic Jr. The Kaioshin Apprentice duo can also combine their attacks, which should give them more variability with how they can take care of their opponents if you think it offers some multipliers similar to other team attacks, like say Burter and Jace's Purple Comet attack, and the Triangle Danger Beam from the Universe 9 Mofos. Going by that
Universe
alone, they
9
are sweeping through
mofos.
most of their offs, but Zamasu may end up being the thorn in their foot, though if he prompts Goku Black to fuse at some point. However, I think that Goku Black would likely learn from his mistakes and not want to fuse with Zamasu again, which is a path that the Divine Saiyan, curiously enough, takes in Sparking Zero. If they were to fuse, they would gain a little bit of power, but would be more prone to taking damage since they would basically be imperfectly immortal. However, he'd still have a degree of power growth given his battle with Vegito. But if their body is destroyed, it's possible that they can become Infinite Zamasu and just body everyone
God,
there,
the
as they would
weirdest
have no
freaking
reason to
concept.
care for
God,
him
what a
unless
way
we
to
get
end
into
that
some other
show, season,
scenarios
like, series.
later into the video. The future androids, 17 and 18, were
Oh,
nearly
let's
successful in
go.
wiping out the entire human race due to not only their power, but because of their limitless stamina and capability to use barriers and energy blast endlessly. Unlike with Super 17, however, this team has a duo to work with and they have good experience fighting together. Because of this, they should make it pretty far into the tournament, but even with their advantages, they may get caught lacking with either characters that are unjumpable, or that have some sort of spicy capabilities that would make their stamina advantage worthless. Moro, the Ancient Wizard, is an insane wild card because he can do what a lot of these high tier characters can do. Picture this, right? He can absorb energy attacks directly from whoever detects and fights him, or from the environment, and he's even bonded with Android 7-3, which means that he can use abilities of anyone he copies without any time limit, and can even turn invisible. After styling on Vegeta, he learned how to use Spirit Fission, which he could use to theoretically defuse or otherwise separate opponents like the Boos, Super 17, Baby,
yeah,
or
wow, okay,
Cell.
yeah.
And
Oh,
he can
yeah.
counter or use Z Broly's power against him by stripping him of his constantly growing energy or stamina. And he would also have the capabilities of Mirrors, meaning that he would have Ultra Instinct, making him very hard to hit. On top of all of those hacks, if his influence grows well enough, he can become the entire arena itself and use it as a weapon, or can straight up absorb the energy from the other contenders to weaken or kill some of them. All in all, he would be one of the hardest, if not the hardest
he's up
opponent
there.
to take care of on paper. He's probably the only one that Beerus or other god tiers would hesitantly consider fighting against with someone else, but they may have to do it nonetheless. His only drawback, however, is that he is not as skilled as, say, Jiren or Beerus.
When you vibe check. Yeah, for real.
Jiren, the mighty Chad from Universe 11, is also unjumpable given his prowess against Universe 7.
Yeah,
despite
he's very,
all
very
having
capable, isn't
crazy
he?
formidable opponents on their own. His key control is very good too, so he wouldn't have to expend as much energy to take care of the ops depending on their difficulty. He has immense experience and skill, likely more than the vast majority of opponents here, given that he has fought End of Dragon Ball Super Goku, so he can avoid damage early and even into the middle stages of the tournament. But past that point, he'd likely get taken out or have to break his limits to stay in the tournament a bit longer. I guess it's up to you if you consider it a straight up transformation which would render it useless, or if it's just a straight up power growth capability, similar to Ultra Instinct given its appearance, and the heat properties, which in that case gives him another huge advantage. The next spicy contender is Granola, a sniper that at one point was the strongest fighter in the universe. Complete with the ability to use clones, take advantage of pressure points, and fire sniper shots from afar, he has multiple aces up his sleeve. He possibly even has some variation of Hakai or Moro's techniques as stated by Goku and Vegeta. Thanks to his super precise eyes, he can tell where to strike based on his opponent's movements, biology, and techniques to disable them, even if they have something as complex to counter as Ultra Instinct. He might even have some kind of pure progress or general power growth or adaptation, given by how Goku assessed him becoming better in a short period of time. Not to mention, he can also wager his very life energy to launch even stronger attacks like when he did it against Gas. He also has the greatest range and most tactical mind out of most of the competitors, so he should be able to remain undetected depending on the environment and surroundings. I think that in character, he would try to quickly assess who are the most notable threats and keep his distance at the start.
Definitely can be counted through raw skill. Like if you get past that, you got him.
Before he faces off
all his shots in that.
Aggressive fighters. Gas, although not the most popular villain, he was certainly imposing due to basically being better than everyone else in that arc, including Granola, Goku, and Vegeta, despite their power boost, training, and wishes for absolute strength. He can utilize gravitational magic and instant transmission to such a high degree to straight up being able to use it on other people without even having to touch them, which he could use to cheese some opponents to get them off the arena. Due to copying Granola's capabilities, he should be able to use some of Moro's magic like his fire moves and something similar to Hakai. On top of being able to craft weapons, showcasing adaptation to his opponent's moves and quick battle growth, he can also regenerate and can keep fighting for some time even while his body is falling apart in his zombie state. So generally he is another crazy hard wildcard to overcome, but he's clearly not as skilled as several of the other ones in this tier. Overall, I'd say that the most worthy top 7 teams in no particular order are Beerus, Moro, Goku Black and Zamasu, Kid Buu, Metacooler, Jiren, and Hit.
Okay.
Although Granola, Omega Shenron, Cell, and other high tiers have very interesting power sets and are quite formidable in their own right, the cream of the crop have more versatility or have more win cons. Once again, Beerus has Ultra Instinct and can fight numerous opponents at the same time.
Where's this Beerus
Plus,
has
he can
Ultra
also
Instinct thing
seal
come
and
from?
Isekai to the most pure degrees. Although his stamina is not seen as being remarkable compared to a Majin or an android, that would probably be his only shortcoming. His opponents would likely have to gang up on him or overwhelm him with multiple different abilities to solidly defeat him. But I don't think that anyone could solidly outskill him. Moro can copy abilities, including power growth ones.
Definitely agree
can
with
become
Moro
the
being up
battlefield
there, like-
itself, and can also use Ultra Instinct. And with Spirit Fission, he can counter fuse opponents like Merge Zamasu, or a hypothetical ultra super powerful
Interesting
Boo
what he would
that
do
absorbs
against
some
Boo, yeah.
competitors. Granola is a close second for this spot, but Moro having vastly more experience gives him the edge over most. His only real drawback is that he cannot use the angelic capabilities of Ultra Instinct for long, but he can use pretty much everything else without it. Kid Buu has the best degree of regeneration here, but he can also potentially pick up how to use Time Skip, Goku Black's Scythe's ability to spawn his own clones, or even Ultra Instinct, all with minimal or no drain to his stamina. And of course, if he plays his cards right, he can become even more cracked if he absorbs another high tier. Super Buuhan would likely be my second choice in this spot because although much smarter and more versatile in terms of techniques, Buuhan's ability copying capabilities aren't as extreme as Kid Buu's. Yes, all of the Buus have some level of power mimicry, but Kid Buu is the one with the greatest level of it, which would give him the slight edge here. He'd also be the hardest to destroy here, and he has the best survivability, with his only drawbacks or counters being his lower general intelligence and Spirit Fission, which may be his undoing. Goku Black has a formidable arsenal on top of growth hacks, but what really puts him and Zamasu in the top leagues is their capability to fuse and become something that is so transcendental that a mortal body no longer suffices to contain it. And that fuse or assimilation with time-space state, it's something only Moro could possibly contend with via Spirit Fission if he's powerful enough. And again, Kid Buu, if he copies the aforementioned abilities or absorbs the users who can use them, he may also be able to carry out the task. Otherwise, the duo behind the Zero Mortals plan have the greatest range due to Infinite Zamasu's near, if not absolute omnipresence within the battlefield, and as such would be nearly unkillable. Hit's top tier placement speaks for itself as very few people can counter his time skip, but he would have the most trouble with someone who can grow in power and keep up with them. And the thing is, the stronger he becomes, the better his time skip is as well. So he could eventually overcome even the higher escalating threats like Z Broly or a Hyper Buu fusion. Unfortunately, his only real weakness is Ultra Instinct, and Moro could even copy and use his skills as good if not even better than him. Granola may also be able to counter his time skip if he hits precise points, but this would eventually be nullified thanks to pure progress. Between these 7, I'd be confident that the final battle would eventually end up with Moro winning. Being that he has mirrors within him who is an angel, it means that he likely has nearly limitless levels of stamina.
Yeah.
However, if he uses the Ultra Instinct capabilities too much or for too long, he will eventually become unstable and be forced to merge with the arena in attempts to contain the angelic power. In which case, if he unravels, it will likely turn into a bomb that could threaten everyone in the ring, leaving no victor in the worst case scenario. Otherwise, I can see Kid Buu absorb enough opponents to have too much versatility even for Moro and Beerus to overcome, and Hit can probably just outgrow them, and with his time hacks, just overcome even the others with power growth. I'd say the placements of these two depend more so on who they are fighting first and who they adapt to or manage to absorb. Goku Black and Zamasu, however, have the greatest capability to survive on paper, being that they are the only duo of the top 7 and they can merge.
Right,
I'd say
yeah.
that alongside Beerus, they'd likely be my close third mainly due to the unpredictability of how the fusion could go, since it would depend on how much damage they receive, and if it's at a rate fast enough to destroy them before they can ascend or recover. Being that Zamasu's body started to dissipate into a gas after Vegeta was beating the hell out of him, it's possible that he could have died right then and there had he been blasted again, as opposed to him recovering and mutating further. But yeah, there you go. All in all, Moro would likely be the victor in the long run, being crowned the most ultimate Dragon Ball villain of them all in this massive battle royale. Although honestly, the coolest out of all of these villains is certainly Cooler. But yeah, what did you think of my verdict? Are there any other competitors who you think would have placed higher or even taken it all? Please let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'd like to give a huge thanks to Seth who helped with the video. Peace out.
Oh, okay, so Seth helped, but wasn't in it. Interesting. Very interesting. That was an interesting fun little Dragon Ball What If scenario video. I kind of find them difficult to focus on, though, because I forgot that Chuck does all these, like, when you Beerus having Ultra Instinct confuses me. I might be wrong, and correct me in the comments, like guys tend to. And we're not using like power levels. We're just using abilities. Beerus having Kakai, yeah, fair, but like in the Tournament of Power, the rules aren't to kill, but then it's I don't know, and then his moveset's great, but then what else does he have? He just has Blast like everybody else. Because then you go like, oh yeah, but him and Goku when they were punching, they were shaking the universe. Like, yeah, but we're not taking that level of power into consideration. Meh, still a fun little video to check out, and yeah, thanks for watching.